From the Gulf States Newsroom, this is the Gulf States Gumbo, your weekly serving of stories from Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I'm community engagement reporter Maya Miller, chopping it up this week. On today's show, we travel to coastal Louisiana, where indigenous land was returned to a tribal community.
I think the ancestors are dancing.
But that land is disappearing as a result of climate change.
The bay has gotten larger and the mound has gotten smaller as it's been, taken over by the waters.
Two of our reporters take us on a trip through the marshes on the Gulf. That's all coming up on the Gulf States Gumbo.
The Gulf States Newsroom is a team of journalists working with NPR and local public media stations in Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana to cover the issues that matter to you. Email us, connect@gulfstatesnewsroom.org.
In southeast Louisiana, about an hour from New Orleans, is the marshland. Common sites include raised levees, lots of boats, and chemical plants. And it's here where sacred land is being returned to a Native American tribe after hundreds of years, land that is now disappearing due to climate change. Health equity reporter Drew Hawkins and environmental justice reporter Danny McArthur spent a day down at the tail end of the Mississippi River, getting to know the history of this area and the people who live there. And Drew kicks this story off just as the land was being transferred through a special ceremony.
A table is set up in the center of Grand Bayou Indian Village in Port Sulphur, Louisiana. We're about an hour outside of New Orleans, at the tip of the toe of Louisiana's boot.
If everybody could just keep it quiet for a few minutes, thank you.
Standing next to the table in the black vestments of the clergy is Mother Marian Fortner from St. Paul's Episcopal Church in New Orleans. She introduces herself to Rosina Philippe, an elder of the Atakapa Ishak Shawasha tribe, one of the small Native American communities that still live out in the bayous and marshes of southern Louisiana.
Hi, I'm Marian.
Philippe is in white rubber boots, her hair in a dark braid beneath her sun hat. They take a seat at the table with some lawyers and get ready to sign some documents. The church is about to give some of her tribe's land back. Philippe never thought she'd see this day in her lifetime.
It's unprecedented that we see someone willingly giving land back.
Philippe has lived in Grand Bayou Indian Village her entire life. For her people, water is everything.
It's part of life. It's life-giving, and if you don't respect it, if you don't pay attention to it, it can also take your life.
She says one of the ways her people survived on the water was by building mounds, ancient earthworks made up of shells and shards of pottery piled up into large hills.
So when the river would flood, we would seek refuge onto the mounds, and when they would recede, then we're left, with whatever the river left for us.
One of those mounds is known as the Lemon Tree Mound. It's a sacred place where the tribe would bring offerings to their ancestors. And at some point, maybe from an offering, but no one really knows how or when, lemon trees sprouted there.
And so to the people, that's a gift from the Creator.
Today, the mound is just a tuft of grass in the water, weathered away by coastal land loss, caused by manipulation of the Mississippi River. But the memory for Philippe is strong. She holds out her hands and tells stories her father told her when she was a little girl.
He would always tell us that the lemons were this big and they were so sour. One lemon could make a whole pitcher of lemonade.
Even though her people built the Lemon Tree Mound, they didn't own the land. It was taken from them, like it was for so many other tribes. Over hundreds of years, the land has changed hands. But in the 90s, the last owner bequeathed the land to the church. Mother Marian Fortner says the title was put in storage and essentially forgotten about, moved around after storms like Hurricane Katrina. But when it was discovered earlier this year, she says the decision to give it back to the tribe was an easy one.
And I think giving back a piece of their heritage, their land, for their tradition, their sacred space, would be equivalent to someone returning our church to us.
But this is more than just a simple legal procedure. This is a rematriation ceremony. For many indigenous people across the country, That term is really important.
Whereas the repatriation really recognizes, I think, the patriarchal quality of ownership and possession.
That's Dr. Kyle Hill. He's a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe tribe and professor at the University of Minnesota. He studies rematriation and climate justice efforts in the U.S.
Recognizing that leadership of the matriarchs in our communities, the mothers, the grandmothers, the daughters.
Hill says this is the first step in healing the land.
Returning to the original stewards, the original matriarchs, the original, just beings of this land, the caretakers of our lands.
Giving the tribe and elders like Rosina Philippe a chance to care for their land again.
Okay.
You're accepting the lemon tree site from St. Paul.
Back at the village, the ceremony is short.
So just sign right here.
A few strokes of the pen, and it's done.
And that makes it official.
Yes,
Yes, it does.
After hundreds of years, in just a 5-minute ceremony, the sacred mound officially returns to the Atakapa Ishak Shawasha tribe. Rosina Philippe is emotional as she talks about what this means for her people.
I think the ancestors are dancing. I know that I'm dancing in my heart.
Philippe says this is the first time stolen land has been returned to indigenous people in Louisiana, but she hopes it can serve as a domino effect for rematriation in the Gulf South. With the ceremony finished, Philippe prepares to take a boat out to the lemon tree mound, this time not as a visitor, but as one of its rightful owners. For the Gulf States Newsroom, I'm Drew Hawkins.
You're listening to the Gulf States Gumbo. Reporters Drew Hawkins and Danny McArthur partnered up to learn more about the Lemon Tree Mound land transfer in coastal Louisiana. After documents were signed, they headed deep into the bayou to see the sacred mound, which is slowly washing away as a result of climate change. Environmental justice reporter Danny McArthur takes the story from here.
In her white rubber boots, Rosina Philippe steps into a flat-bottomed metal boat. She's with a group of journalists on the dock of Grand Bayou Indian Village, off the west bank of the Mississippi River in Plaquemine Parish, Louisiana.
Step, maybe hold here and step on that step.
We're traveling down the river to the Lemon Tree Mound, an ancient earthwork built by the Atakapa Ishak Shawasha centuries ago. It's sacred for Philippe's tribe and located in Adams Bay.
And over the years, the bay has gotten larger and the mound has gotten smaller as it's been, taken over by the waters.
This is a special trip for Philippe. Just hours ago, the land was transferred back to the tribe from an Episcopal church in New Orleans.
We're rejoicing that this is happening.
Houses on stilts sit right on the water's edge. You need a boat to get anywhere.
You want to sit on your life jacket? No, I'm okay.
As you travel down the river, you see nothing but water where land used to be.
But yeah, no more trees. Majority of them are gone.
You can see petrochemical plants in the distance and signs warning about gas pipelines. After a lengthy boat ride, we finally pull up to the mound's shore. It's windy. We get out of the boat to explore the Lemon Tree Mound. It's muddy and covered in grass. The mound barely peeks out above the water. A dead tree that once bore lemons sticks out of the ground. It becomes apparent. The tribe is getting this land back right as it's disappearing. But Philippe says she is still grateful to have one of their sacred sites returned. And coming to the mound after the land transfer feels different.
It feels different in my spirit, yeah.
Despite these environmental changes, tribal connections to their land can't be so easily severed. Kyle Hill studies the intersection of climate justice and land-based healing within indigenous communities at the University of Minnesota. He says they are especially impacted by climate change because their livelihoods are dependent on the relationship to their traditional territories and homelands.
That is partially a cause for our traditions, our cultures, and our belief systems also eroding as well.
Even if the land is underwater, it's still sacred, and the tribe would want to take it back.
And that's only because we have the tools to be able to breathe life back into our lands.
That's a sentiment the Atakapat Ishak Shawasha tribe echoes in their work to protect the lemon tree mound. Ringing the mound are gray oyster shells, flecked with blue, put there by the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana, a state agency in partnership with the tribe. You can see signs of life.
Oh, look, there's a stone crab here. Yeah, let him out.
The oyster reef was built to protect the mound against erosion, storm surges, and the other dangers that come with being surrounded by water where the Mississippi and Gulf meet.
We're kind of like in the shadow of industrialization. We're promoting these renewable, doable, natural projects.
The goal is to slow the rate of loss, but it can't stop it. Back at Grand Bayou Indian Village, Philippe sits on a bench on the dock. She contemplates what the land transfer will mean, not only for their present tribe, but their future people as well. She says she hopes this is just the beginning of Native groups having sacred sites returned to them.
There's so many tribes up along the coast, that would love to lay claim to some of their sacred places.
For now, they're focusing on more projects to help slow erosion for the lemon tree mound. The goal is to allow the earth to heal its wounds and see beneficial returns. For the Gulf States Newsroom, I'm Danny McArthur.
And now it's time for Gulf States Gems, a series that shines a light on some of the treasures of the region. Here's Joseph King, our sports and culture reporter, with this week's gem from Birmingham, Alabama.
A gorgeous afternoon here from Birmingham.
The Magic City Classic here in Birmingham is one of the most anticipated events in the city. The Classic is the annual football game between two historically black universities in Alabama, Alabama A&M and Alabama State. But the game is more than football, it's culture. It's a time for people to pull up in their best outfits and eat the best food. It's an opportunity for alumni to catch up and reminisce about all the times they shared.
It means that family, love, togetherness, it's all about, fellowshipping, man. Putting God first, man. That's what the Classic mean to me, man.
You can expect concerts, special events, and celebrities during the game or around town the week leading into it. Growing up, I attended the Classic with my family, and while out there, I would run into friends, classmates, and even church members. I have family that attended both universities, so overhearing the playful banter about who is best is always fun too.
You can see pictures of this and other Gulf States gems on our Instagram. Follow us at Gulf States Newsroom. And we want to hear about a place you consider a gem. Like, I love hiking the sandy hills of Red Bluff, which is known as the Grand Canyon of Mississippi. Send us your suggestions. Email connect@gulfstatesnewsroom.org. This week's episode of the Gulf States Gumbo was produced by me, Maya Miller. Our head chef this week is Tyler Pratt, and our sous chef is Stephen Basaha. Our theme music is by DJ Supreme. Special thanks to our partner stations, WBHM, Mississippi Public Broadcasting, WWNO, and WRKF. You can find us in your podcast feeds every Friday. Look us up and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to stir your roux.